Hey, everybody. We are live. The Sundance Film Festival 2021 is done. It's behind us now, and we're here to talk about it. We're going to talk about all the films that played, we didn't go to any parties. There were no major events to attend in person. There were panels and discussions, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. And you can participate in this. So please post your comments and questions. We are going to talk about the best of Sundance, the worst of Sundance, and what it was like to do Sundance from our couches in 2021. Hey, everybody. We're here. We're live.
Hello.
Welcome, Alan Ing, Brad Gibson, Norman Gidney, Sabina,
Dana works.
and Lori Kikta, all here to talk about Sundance 2021. I have watched all your reviews. I haven't read all the reviews, but there were so many reviews I could not keep up.
Yeah.
It was awesome. But before we talk about the film that I saw that I thought was amazing, the film Life in a Day, I want to discuss that because Alan tells me that he's seen it.
I have seen it.
What is okay? So everyone saw at least, more than 10, 15 movies each, right? And collectively, everybody saw a lot of films. The chatter was that people had seen a lot of different films that they liked, disagreed on. What was the best film that you saw at Sundance? I want to go around to everybody. Let's start with Lori Kikta, and we'll make our way back. You, Lori. Wait, Matt Passantino is joining us. Matt, we're talking about the best and the worst of Sundance 2021. We're here with the entire crew of Film Threat who covered the event virtually, of course, all from their couches. But there were a lot of amazing films that you all saw. Let's start with Lori. Lori, you are in the hot seat now. What was the best thing that you saw?
That's really okay. That's kind of difficult to say because I really liked all the ones that I picked. I think I did a good job picking my movies this year. I would say Censor. It's we talked about it on our first live thing that we did here. It's a British horror film about a film censor in the 80s who watches horror movies, or video nasties were what they were called at the time in Britain. And they decide what kind of material to cut out and what to leave in. And so it's just this all day watching violent images, and it kind of goes into this really smart commentary about how things like that affect the viewer. And then there's also an aspect of grief in there too. So it's really, really well done and really unique. And I could say that about a lot of the movies I saw at Sundance, actually.
So Censor is your pick for does anyone else agree that Censor was one of the best?
Has anybody seen it besides me?
I saw it, but it's horror, so to me it wasn't one of the best. But in general, I'm not a big horror guy, but I did find it fun.
Oh, Alan.
Yeah. I know, sorry. That's
Boring.
why I leave the horror to the rest of you guys.
I don't know if I would associate the word fun with a lot of sometimes movies that you see at Sundance. A lot of them. What? There are fun movies there. What I'm saying is sometimes you see movies at Sundance where fun is not the operative word. Is what I'm saying. I would say that the code word for that is the movie was challenging, right?
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Okay. Brad, what was the film that you thought was the best? Oh, you got to unmute. Unmute.
You're on mute. That's the thing everyone said all year. My favorite was Bring Your Own Brigade, which was the film about the campfire fires and the Woolsey fire in California. And I like that one because it showed me an angle on those fires and how people were responding to them. And then a year later, how the neighborhoods wouldn't take the steps they need to take that are pretty simple things to address how to manage fires, but people were still unwilling to do it. And it came from the perspective of an outsider. The filmmaker's English, and so yeah, that gets my vote for the most impactful. And there's scenes that take place inside that they got video from people in the fire zone that are just absolutely amazing.
Cool. All right, Dana, what was the best film that you saw at Sundance 2021?
So I think the best film I saw was probably the documentary President, about the Zimbabwe election in 2018, because, as I wrote in the review, it just held up a mirror to our country, our world, on how democracy is so wanted, and how in that film these people risk their lives. And this is the second film this woman, Camille, the Danish filmmaker, made about Zimbabwe, and everybody was all over it, and it's all documented, and they just kind of left Zimbabwe in the dust. And I just thought that was really profound, and just amazing cinema verite. It's just like, Wiseman, the Maisel brothers, all those people you love. Like, she just captures it.
All right. Norm, Norm, we do have a question. And this is just for everybody in the room. What's your opinion on An American Scheme? Did anyone see An American Scheme?
Not see it.
I didn't.
Is that the right festival?
Was that on the list?
I'm not sure. MJ fandom exposure. Sorry. And Norm, you're muted. You're muted. But you are standing.
There we are.
There you go.
No,
Right.
I didn't see that
sorry,
one.
MJ fandom exposure. An American Scheme. I don't know. We didn't see it. Norm, what was your favorite thing you saw at Sundance 2021?
Okay. I have to say that this year in particular was very interesting in that the quality had been raised a bit, and there was a lack of like the big studio movies. So there were big potholes, to be sure, and I'm sure we'll talk about them. But I have three favorites, maybe four. But if I had to choose, Strawberry Mansion.
Yeah.
Strawberry Mansion.
Yes.
Good. That's good. I saw it.
All right. Tell us about it.
Oh goodness. Okay. It is about a fictional future where where your dreams are audited and taxed based on the little product placements that pop into your dreams. And so this one man decides to go ahead, like he's a dream auditor, and he is assigned to go and audit this one lady who lives in the middle of a grassy field in a strawberry colored mansion rather. And so she then reveals to him that she has a technology to block those ads in her dreams. Okay. So it's like, oh, wait a minute, and then of course there are complications, and her evil son shows up and wants to wrestle control of that technology. And it's what I explained was that it felt like Wes Anderson, John Waters, Tim Burton, and Charlie Kaufman kind of had a hellish love child, and it's just the sweetest movie. And it's at once sweet and sarcastic, and I loved it. I just loved it.
Well, that sounds like something I would be interested in. It's sort of like a lo-fi sci-fi. Would that be a way to describe it?
Oh, 100%. There are characters with, paper mache masks that you are to, accept as, say, a frog playing a saxophone, or there's suddenly stop motion animation, and it is exactly what Sundance needs right now.
That one goes on my list because I love like low budget horror and sci-fi, and especially one that plays with ideas rather than spectacle and special effects. This one
isn't so much horror; it's more sci-fi, comedy, romance, and it just steals your heart. And damn it, you just want a chicken shake with extra gravy after it.
All right, Matt. What was the best thing you saw at Sundance? I know it's tough because you were raving about a lot of stuff that you had seen. In our Film Threat private chat group, there's all sorts of like, this was amazing, this blew my mind. But now you have to pick the best. So what do you think?
The way it worked out for my schedule is the thing. I loved everything that I wasn't covering. And I mean, everything I covered, most things I covered were good. But my favorite was Rebecca Hall's passing.
So good.
It is her directorial debut. I've always liked Rebecca Hall, and it's her directorial debut. It's Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga, and they. Well, I forgot the year it was. Was it the 20s? Anyone who saw it?
Yeah, 20s.
Okay,
Yep, late 20s.
And it's just about how they, it's about the colorism of the era and how do they pass for white, do they pass for black, and the social implications of it. And it's just gorgeous black and white. And I kind of went into it because I'll watch mostly anything. And I like Rebecca Hall, and I like those two actresses. And it's just a movie to get lost in. I felt like you're in the time period, and the ending stays with you. I was really dazzled by passing.
Okay.
The ending was insane. I will be thinking about that for a long time.
Oh,
yeah, the ending is a total jaw dropper.
And the piano music as it went between scenes, it's just everything kind of worked for me on passing.
Yeah.
All right, Alan, what your best film? And what's interesting is that I know people had review assignments, right? So there's review assignments per se, but then everybody strayed and like, I'm going to see this movie and that movie, and what did you see that you thought was the best?
I mean, I'm in the same boat as Matt. My favorite movies were the ones I didn't review. The ones I did review, Street Gang was the best one.
Oh yeah.
But the two movies I liked was Prisoner of the Ghostland, starring Nick Cage. It's an amazing film written by RZA. It's not quite Con Air good, but it's really good. And then the other one was Misha and the Wolves, and that's a documentary that. It's this insane story. Norm reviewed it, but it's about a girl raised by wolves, basically. But that's nothing. The story has one twist after the other, and I can't even
say nothing, Alan. Say nothing.
Yeah, I can't say a thing because the movie's all about these insane twists that just appear out of nowhere, and so you have to see the movie with no knowledge other than the fact that here's a girl running from Nazis raised by wolves.
Seriously?
Just go.
I know. I can't say anything more than that. It goes in just some incredible directions.
No. Well, I want to say something about the lineup this year, and this is something that is true of most festivals, especially in particular Sundance, since nearly everything is a premiere, or if it's been seen, it's only been seen at something like Toronto, right? Mm-hmm. But what's cool about it is you're seeing the movies not ruined by the marketing, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen a film. This is actually true for every Hollywood movie, is that you see the trailers so much, you're pummeled with the marketing, that by the time you actually see the movie, there are no surprises. I remember feeling that way. This is a bad example, but I had seen so many trailers for the movie Batman v Superman. By the time I saw it, it was like the movie was anticlimactic. It was like all about the marketing. What's great about seeing films at a festival like Sundance is the marketing's not even decided yet. Many of the movies don't have trailers. They don't even know how to market them, right? And they're not being ruined by, I feel like that's the problem with a lot of Hollywood films, is that that the marketing actually ruins the movie. And you're seeing, in fact, what's funny is I used to think this was so weird, and now I think it's on purpose. When you read the descriptions in the program guide at Sundance, it almost never tells you anything about the movie. I mean, isn't it true? You read the description, you're like, I don't know what
that's entirely true. And I think they're aware of that marketing problem, is what it is. I mean, maybe that's the thing. I don't know.
I mean, it's like you're
Right.
seeing these movies in like their purest form. They're not tainted by the marketing. The marketing can even influence like your perception of the movie. There's no poster necessarily. There's generally like a key still. So there's just the still and 3 sentences, and that's it. And when you see a movie blind that way, it's so much cooler. And then it gets like, as it plays the festival circuit and reviews begin to come out, you know, whatever, they kind of figure out like, how can we sell this to a mainstream audience? So what was the biggest surprise at Sundance for everyone? What was this year? I mean, aside from the fact that, Alan, you actually made a really good point. I don't know if you've made it like on our live stream, but you were talking about how this was actually one of the best years for Sundance because not a lot of the big Hollywood-ish indie movies really. These were actually true indie movies. Can you talk about that a bit?
I mean, you know, I went to Sundance last year, and it was all about the big studios bringing their films, premiering it there, having the big stars come out. And those big studios aren't going to allow those films, to appear on a virtual platform. So all Sundance is left with are these truly independent films. And I will say, I did see one big studio film, and it was horrible. And, you know, and that's what I generally find at film festivals is that the independent films are so much better than the Hollywood films.
Well, it's a lot of them are, you know, these big Hollywood movies that open at like Sundance or Toronto, whatever, or South by. The festival is like a launching pad to promote it.
Yeah.
I think Netflix had what was the movie that Netflix had? Or am I wrong? It was Warner Brothers had there. So a lot of it is to kick off award season. It's just a way to promote. Those are the movies that instantly I refuse to see whenever I go to a festival. Is like, this is going to be on HBO in 2 weeks. Why would I waste my time seeing it? I'd rather see this small movie I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think it's tough because this year in a pandemic, there was just nothing around except for what people were working on in their post-production. And Sundance has an entirely new staff. There are all new people working that festival. And I have to say, I'm impressed with Tabitha. As Norm said, she could read the phone book to us and I would be completely engaged. The woman has a command of language. She knows every freaking corner of her event. The way they were able to put this online and still keep that Sundance je ne sais quoi, I don't know what to call it, was really impressive. There weren't a whole lot of glitches. I don't know what everybody else has to say, but everything I saw went pretty smoothly. And everyone was engaged because they weren't running around like crazy people attending a party and being wowed by actors and actresses and limousines pulling up and where this great party was. People really were at a film festival to watch films and see things and be educated to things that I think we've all been missing. So it was a really different experience. And I'm not gloating, but I've gone for many years. And I'm like, after day 2, I'm like, get me out of here. You know, and this year, you know, I bought a portable projector and I sat in my room and I watched films like I've never had before. And it worked. I mean, I miss people and I went into the next frontier and I thought that was really weird. And we can talk about that or not, but like there's a lot of weird stuff going on. And they tried, it failed in my opinion, but you do crave this that we're doing in person, but the programming was really much better than I've ever seen it. And you were still bombarded by the publicists. And you're like, oh my God, what's this? What's that? And you go in, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have to watch this and that. And then it evolves. But really good programming.
Well, did you miss? I mean, I know I, for one, missed the free alcohol. That's, I think,
totally. Yeah.
Thing was the free drinks.
Everything free.
That I was very disappointed. Did not be able to take, but like, you know, there's like a lot of those things are really sort of like a distraction, like the whatever it is, this party and the gift bag and this thing. My actual personal favorite thing is not only discovering new movies, but also just like the conversations I'll have at like parties. And when by parties I mean gatherings where people drink alcohol and you actually have a conversation. The parties where it's so loud you can't think, that's, while fun for 5 minutes, is not the type of gathering that is my personal favorite. But what was the thing that I would ask everybody, like, that you missed, you know, or that they could improve about the virtual experience? The one thing about the virtual experience, I have one complaint. One, But I'm not saying this because I didn't technically get a badge, although I did get to see a lot of movies. I didn't get a badge, but the thing that I thought that was weird was that they were so exclusive with the screening. Like, you got to see if you can get tickets to this, and I'm like, I think it's basically, I like the way that Slamdance is doing it. Now, we're going to have some Slamdance coverage in the next, I think it kicks off, is it next Friday?
It's next Friday, yeah.
Next Friday. So we're going to be covering Slamdance, and basically Slamdance for $10. It's like a streaming service you subscribe to for a month, and you get access to like 25 movies for $10, which I think is just like a way better, it's a much better way of doing it, because I think now that we've lived through nearly going on a year of lockdown, we're going on
Almost there.
Almost there, folks. Almost a year of lockdown, but we're used to, I think we're used to by now, like, I'm just going to watch this on my own time, or I'm going to binge this, or I'm not a fan of, like, you have this window to watch it and that's it. It's like,
yeah,
no, I don't. I got snacks to make.
By the way, I thought that I signed up correctly for all my stuff, and when they came to watch films, I wasn't in anything. But I managed nothing. It was all gone. But it worked.
It
worked. Yeah.
It worked.
It should be like filmocracy.com is doing it, or Slamdance. It's like, you subscribe, you have a window of time, but it's a generous enough time that you can make choices and decide the movies you want to see. A question for everybody, what did you all miss the most, aside from the in-person thing, which, I mean, I've been in a movie theater once after everything locked down. I went to see the BTS concert movie. Don't ask. But it was playing in Fullerton, California. I was at Fullerton at an AMC, and it was fun. It was fun. I mean, it was one where they bring you the drinks and the food to the seats. But I've been going to the drive-in, and I love the drive-in. Speaking of the drive-in, we are doing, I can announce this, Award This is happening. This is the plug. This is what you have to suffer through. Go to awardthis.com. Next week, tickets are on sale. Awardthis.com. The virtual event is free. We have a very limited number of tickets. We're doing Award This at a drive-in, and then we're doing a virtual event about a week later, and it's going to be amazing. It is going to be an award show like you've never seen. I've been working on videos for it, and Alan and I are working on paring down a nomination list that everyone at Film Threat will contribute to. But this event, I think it really has been a banner year for indie film, because we're not being distracted by the noise of major releases. It's everything coming out on VOD. So, but what did everybody miss the most about Sundance not being here, other than the free drinks?
I miss being up in the mountains. I miss the actual physical place of Park City, because it's so beautiful. See, I have on like a mountain shirt right now. That's what I miss.
Right. But you miss the clean air, right, Lori?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one thing I notice whenever I first get to Sundance is I'm breathing the air and I'm like, oh my God, it is so clean in Utah. Like, what is this? My nose hairs freeze up. But it's like, it's that, like, I mean, I don't know. I love that. Yeah, the air.
I love the mountain air, and I love, like, I don't know, just the snow and like seeing the cross country skiers and like all this stuff is so different from where I'm at, which is New York City. So it's like a completely different. And I think that once you're there, it puts you into like a different mindset to where you're like, okay, I'm here and this is what I have to do. And so when you're at home, like, there's a lot more distraction, I feel like, because you're just like, okay, I can watch this movie, or I can play Animal Crossing for the 7th hour in a row, or whatever, like, so yeah, that's kind of my gripe.
Or Cyberpunk 2077, which
is my favorite.
I don't know if anyone else is playing it. It's like Blade Runner. It's like Blade Runner video. It's so good. I know people complain about there are glitches. There are glitches in every video game. I don't care. Like, once they got the patches in, it was awesome. I'm playing it on my PS4. It is like living in Blade Runner times, and it's incredible. And there's like hardcore sex in it. There's
Wait, go on.
graphic violence. It's I freaking love the game. I'm not like, I've become less of a gamer, just, you know, things just don't impress me. And Cyberpunk 2077 is awesome. Matt, what was the thing that you missed the most?
I just miss being in a theater because I've been home for a year like everybody else.
Right, yeah.
So I did drive-ins over the summer, but I miss the theaters, and I miss just the festival atmosphere, the buzz, the kind of, you know, it was nice. Not like I had to like remind myself I did not travel to Utah. I don't have to be like, I'm here in Utah. I need to see every single movie that's playing at this theater. Well, I still kind of did that, but like I had like by like day 3, I had to remind myself like you can take a break. So I kind of miss like the adrenaline of the festival.
I don't know if you talk to Alan, he would say you cannot take a break. Absolutely cannot take a break. According to what Alan said. Alan, what was the thing you missed? I mean, obviously, being a theater is that's my church. Yeah. I you know, that is where I go, or at least used to, every week, 2-3 times a week to the movie theater.
I've got theaters here doing private rentals. I haven't quite done it yet, but
oh wait, is it open in your area, Matt? Oh, and the other thing, Matt, I forgot about you. You were supposed to go last year, and you got really sick.
I get sick every year at Sundance, so that is the one plus of being home. I'm not sick right now.
Alan, what did you miss?
Well, I'm going to piggyback on what Matt said. You know, I saw a great documentary, Taming the Garden. It's a nature documentary. There's a beautiful shot of this 15-story tree on a barge in the middle of the Black Sea, and I got to watch it on my TV. And because the quality of that wasn't that great, I switched it to my iPad. I mean, you know, we'll just keep hammering the ground. There's nothing like seeing a giant image on a giant screen. Whether it's digital, IMAX, whatever. You know, I can't see a future where I'm watching movies for the rest of my life at home or on my devices.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's that's why I've been going to the drive-in. It's and I'm just fortunate in Pasadena. They've been doing this pop-up drive-in at the Rose Bowl, and now they're doing a food festival, but it's drive-through.
yeah,
So you pre-order your food, and then you drive past food trucks that give you your food. I don't know.
yeah, we did that because that same one there, they did it down at Angel Stadium, and so I did.
Oh,
that
that's cool.
Yeah, it's actually fun.
All right,
Yeah.
Brad, what did you miss the most? I mean, we all miss like not being in a physical theater, and who knows when that's going to come back, at least to full capacity. I really believe that we're not going to get back to full capacity going to the movies until maybe the fourth quarter fall of this year. I think that's just being realistic. I think it's going to be 25% capacity, and you're going to go to a multiplex with 16 screens, and they'll all be playing Black Widow.
Yeah.
And that's how. But Brad, what did you miss about Sundance?
So you're going to think I'm crazy, but that 2 years ago when I went, because I didn't go last year, and we had that condo and everybody was jammed in there.
Right.
I'm not a social animal. I'm not a social person, so it's hard for me to like get out into a big crowd and like feel comfortable. But that was a fantastic time because we all knew each other pretty well. We got comfortable with each other very quickly. Everybody respected each other's space. It was a very except for Walter, who didn't respect your space. But
that's right. Yeah, we had to share a bed. It was very
But then we had like, the newsroom set up, and there was something going pretty much around the clock. And Matt sleeping on the couch, and it was like sleepaway camp or something. It was amazing. And I'm at my age, I'm not going to do that sort of thing very often. And so I had a fantastic time, and it was, someone waking me up at 3 a.m. and poking me and saying, "We got to do a podcast, and you got to be on it because nobody else is here." And so I'm happy live doing a podcast at 3 a.m. I love that, and that's what I missed. Was that kind of atmosphere?
Sweet. Dana, what about yourself?
I just ditto what everybody's saying. I mean, I miss the wackiness of Sundance, like waiting in line, freezing your ass off, and bitching with everybody. On the bus, just hearing all kinds of wacko chatter and people trying to sell you a film, and everything's late. Everybody's bitching at the bus driver. I got to get to my film. Well, so does the 100 people I'm with too. And just like the drama, the drama of going to film festival gives you that spark. And it's like, of course we miss the goodie bags and free drinks. And I'm like, here I am drinking by myself, watching my movies. It's like, I'm like, there's some, I mean, it's kind of one of those things like, okay, I'm really doing this and I'm by myself and I'm wondering, everyone else at Sundance is doing this? Like, I'm very curious as to how many people actually participated in watching this year. And I also missed the discussion afterward, being in an audience, watching a film together with that community and the reactions. And then I miss that a ton. I feel so disconnected. And actually, I think it is a part of the reviews. Like, I watched every Q&A for every film I wrote about because I'm like, there's something I'm missing here. Like, I can't get the vibe.
I'm just getting sick of everything's a fucking Zoom call. You know what I mean? So every Q&A is like a Zoom call. Like, that's right. You're just missing that personal connection. Norm, what about yourself?
Okay, well, I mean, I think we can all agree that movie watching and cinema is best as a communal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss that the most. I miss being able to be in a room where the lights go down and we don't know what's going to pop up on the screen. I miss being able to meet the people in the town, like my friend Tommy, who works at the library cafe, or another friend who was one of the volunteer ushers at the library. Like last year, which was my second year, she's like, Norm, and she finds me and I'm like, oh my God. You make these personal connections and you make you talk to people and you connect with people, and sometimes it's more than just a sentence. Sometimes it's just, hey, we shared that moment. But the fact is that cinema is something that we need to share. And while I was able to see the things that we needed to see, it would have been infinitely better had I people to share it with and people to discuss it with.
Okay, that's I mean, like, I think we all miss that. I mean, we could sit here. We're not complaining so much as we're saying what we miss about being connected, because we all would physically be in the same space experiencing these movies. And I think, Norm, it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I said to you, Norm, you're going to go to Sundance. And
that was 3 years ago.
3 years ago. And I said, it's going to change your life. And you're like,
totally did.
No. I said, it's going to change your life because you're going to see people. The people that you see and the filmmakers you see are having these moments where they're basically, it's like seeing a live childbirth, but it's
but not so gross.
Yeah,
right. It's not so much covered in blood and mucus. It's it's a movie. It's a movie that's being birthed into the world, and
no, it is. It's true.
See filmmakers go through that moment, and it's also inspiring. When you hear the stories, I'll often say that, like, sometimes the stories behind the movies are actually better than some of the movies.
Yes.
When you see a bad movie at Sundance, you're like, but there's a good story about how it got to that. Speaking of a good film, I want to talk about one of the movies that I was able to see, and I'm not sure. I think, Alan, you mentioned that you had seen it.
Yeah, I saw it.
Which was the film Life in a Day. And Life in a Day is, first of all, it's a sequel, which is weird. It's a sequel It's a follow-up film to another film called Life in a Day that was made in 2010. And it was shot in 2019 in like July. They sort of picked a date in July of 2019, and they said, everybody just film yourself on this day. doing various things. And through hundreds of thousands of hours of footage, they edited together a 90-minute movie. It's actually free on YouTube. YouTube was
on Friday, tomorrow.
What's that?
Tomorrow will be.
Tomorrow.
The first one or the second one? I'm talking about
the new one. The one we saw will be premiere tomorrow. Yeah.
So the 2010 version is actually on YouTube now. There's a very moving connection between both of the films, between the 2010 version and the 2020 version, and I don't want to ruin it because it's one of the most shocking highlights of the film. But I will say this: the second version is much better. The one that was shot in 2019, because it's happening during the pandemic, right? Mm-hmm. So what I loved about it is they I don't know how they did it, and I'm supposed to interview one of the editors because I want to find out about the process. What I love about it is the movie is really about everything that connects us. It takes place all over the world. I mean, we're all fortunate enough to live in, a first world country, right? We have indoor plumbing. We have apps like Postmates to deliver us food if we should so want that. But the movie covers people from all over the world, many third world countries, different, but we all do the same things. We all wake up in the morning. We all, for the most part, brush our teeth. We bathe and groom and clean ourselves. We eat. We, celebrate life, new life coming into the world, babies being born. We, mourn death, and there's death in this film. So you see all of these different things that every single person matter, rich or poor, at what level, all experiencing different things. And the editing is just impeccable. The way it connects all of these things, people getting up. So it starts out, it sort of tracks 24 hours in this day. I think it was like July 25th, 2019.
July 25th, right.
July 25th. So it's all these things that happened on that day. And I think they said they had like 400,000 contributions from people. Really incredible film. So it just blew my mind. And it's also like, I just found it moving, and there's no story. So in a sense, it's a lot like Slacker, the Richard Linklater one from 1990, which is one of my all-time favorite independent films.
Good film.
Really great film. An inspiration. But this just tracks all these things people are doing that are all the same, kind of tracking throughout the day. And there are threads, there are stories. There's one kid who's trying to catch like 7 trains. He's got to see 7 main tracks, and he's going to catch all the trains. So you check back in with certain people as to like what their goals are. There's certain revelations that come out by the end. And in 90 minutes, it's so incredibly moving and offers you so much perspective on the world. It's just, it's one of the best films I've been able to see this year, and one of the few Sundance films I saw. So it's on. I didn't know this, Alan. Life in a Day is actually on YouTube tomorrow.
Friday. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. You mentioned there's no story, but there are themes. The life, the death, birth. There's also accomplishing things. People, doing something new that day. There's a sequence of drone shots of people. A guy climbing a mountain and having a drone film him. Yeah. There's even a breakup. And the guy with the camera going, "You're kidding, right?" and just a lot of crying after that.
Oh wow!
It's fascinating to watch, and I think it's based on the book series too. I mean, there have been several books of people who took pictures on a specific day, and they made a coffee book out of it. And I think that's the idea behind it, if not from the same people.
Alan, I'm gonna guess you gave it a 7.
I gave it a 6 out of 5.
No.
6 out of 5. I can't math, and even I know that's wrong.
I watch Alan's reviews on our YouTube channel.
I've always said it would.
He does the reviews with Zoriana Kit, and one time, Alan,
the first time,
it was just a comment in passing. He goes, "I give it a 6 out of 5." I didn't know why he made the mistake, but it was just like, and then he was like, "Oh, you just left it in. That's cool."
It's the first time producing a video movie review show, so
right
at the same time.
Oh man, the one thing about Sundance is Sundance is not shy when it comes to controversial topics, right? Like, I tend to gravitate towards the documentaries, but at least in my experience of going to Sundance and seeing movies that come out of Sundance, if you've got a really challenging film that grapples with the topic that's rough, Sundance is the festival for you. It can often feel like, I almost felt like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I've been abused having seen so many of these movies because they're so fucking depressing sometimes. So can you just a question for everyone, what was the most challenging film that you saw and the thing that really like just blew your mind? Lori, let's start with Lori, we'll go to Norm, but yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so Alan saw this too.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure.
You're mentioning the one I was going to mention.
Talk about it.
Okay, so it's called Pleasure, and it's a story about a 19. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, so like it was about a 19-year-old girl woman from Sweden who moves to Los Angeles to be in the porn industry. And so it's a very detailed, very as far as I know, like very truthful depiction of like what goes on when one decides to be in that industry. And it shows like the pitfalls, which there are many, and it shows the positives, of which there are some. And it's kind of like I think it's sort of like holding a mirror up to the industry and saying like, you can do better, because the industry is mostly employed by women and like managed by men, and it's kind of like a feminist statement in a way. And but there's some like, it's very realistic to the industry that it portrays.
Yeah,
so,
and I wouldn't say it's anti-porn at all either.
No.
I mean, Chris, you've talked about being, in that environment. There's a level of protection that goes on, but at the same time, I don't know.
Being in that environment, what are you talking about?
Well, I'm talking when you were like working for Mr. Flint.
Yeah,
oh, that's true. Yes, yeah. I wrote comedy for magazine.
I have to imagine that you saw a few images, Chris.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, like, first of all, very little experience, but it's just like, it's not what you think. It's not.
Yeah, but there's a protected nature to it. But at the same time, it feels like that most people who go into it, once they go in, they want to get out of it, and they have to work their way to get out of it, basically. Mm-hmm. And there's just so much that goes on that, I was very disturbed by it. And I think there's an innocent nature to it that kind of concerns me as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of like the thing that's most disappointing about it, is that you have someone who's going into this like very enthusiastically and having like no clue what she's in for, and then kind of seeing like the different things that she has to deal with is just like heartbreaking. And there's some stuff in there that is just like makes you squirm. At least me, I was just like, oh my God. And then by the end of the movie, I felt like my soul had been like drained. And then I had to wait like a few hours before I wrote the review, because it was just so like, ugh. It's beautiful. Like, it's beautifully shot. Like, and it's directed by a woman. The cinematographer is a woman. Like, and a lot of people who worked on the movie are actually in the porn industry, which is interesting to me. But it was definitely the most shocking film that I saw.
What about what Norm, you were kind of waving. What did you see that you thought was just really impactful?
Well, Brad, are we talking about the same one?
You're going there. Yep.
Wait, what is the movie you're talking about?
Brad, perhaps? No, I think that you should bring it up.
So there's a film called Violation that is it's a revenge fantasy from the point of view of a woman who is gone for a weekend at her sister's to make amends with her estranged sister, and she winds up being raped by her sister's husband. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's the basic story. And she tries to get him to sort of own it, and they have a conversation about it, and he is very defensive and says, we were both drunk and it just happened and it's nobody's fault. And so then later she books a room and gets him to come.
No spoilers.
And then
Dot dot dot.
It's a very difficult piece to watch.
Did you see Promising Young Woman, which I thought was sort of a similar, I thought was very clever. I found the thing that was disturbing about Promising Young Woman is the sort of shift in tone. It almost starts out like, it's like, is this supposed to be a comedy? This is so weird. And then when you see kind of her, and it's getting awards accolades.
I am blown away by how that movie's being received.
Yeah.
When I first saw it at Sundance last year, which was prophetic because that's where I met the Final Draft girls, and we were all like, "Oh my God, I remember you from this year and that year." We're like, "Oh, let's watch this movie together," and we were like, we all left like, well, that was sort of creative and interesting, and go girls, go. I'm like, what is it that there's nothing out there that, like, it just, to me, it's like it's not that good. Actually, it's very disjointed and weird.
I love it. I love that movie.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I just kind of walked away like, okay, like it's Sundance. They made this film there for it. I thought she did a great job, but I just felt like I didn't like the whole deal with the school, with the headmistress.
Right.
It didn't fit for me. That was where I lost myself in that film. I was like, I don't get this.
I didn't like
entirely a sympathetic character.
Yeah.
I have a question for Norm and Brad about the movie. Was it like I Spit on Your Grave, where it's kind of exploitative towards women, or was it more modern?
No, not at all. The reason why I kind of deferred to Brad is because he and I have had some discussions about this film, and he reviewed it for Film Thread. I reviewed it for Horror Buzz, and it was like it's one of those films that echoes in your head and keeps making you think. And you're like, wait a minute, did this happen? Did this happen? Who's at fault? What like and then on top of that, there is some easily the most shocking imagery I've seen since Takashi Miike's Audition. So I was like, what the fuck what is happening right now? Like it was disturbing. So he and I were going back and forth on that. And in regards to whether it's an exploitation flick, not at all. This is a film that was co-written by a female, co-written and directed by its star. And it is, I think the point of the film was that that there are things that happen that we can't necessarily put to words or put blame on. But regardless of that, moving forward, one needs to kind of own up and say, this was my part in it, let's move forward. And that was what I took from it. And damn. That's it. That's all I have to say.
And I appreciated the opportunity to chat with Norm about it because it is clarifying. I mean, we were talking about the ability, to go see a movie and sit around and chat about it afterwards. Norm and I actually did that online about this one because there was so much going on in that film to sort of sort out. And it was very helpful to be able to chat about it get a different perspective. And so that was a great conversation, Norm.
Well,
and I'm going to be thinking about that movie for a while.
Yeah, it's and two, what makes it so difficult to kind of discern is the timeline jumps around.
Yep.
And maybe that was a gimmick. Maybe but it was just like, wait a minute, where were they in this timeline? Where were they in this timeline? How come? So it was wow. That one was rough.
What is your thought? I'm glad to hear that other people liked Promising Young Woman. I find when I see a film like that, I don't want to see it again. Meaning that experience that I had is not really something I wish to repeat. I mean,
What do you mean?
I can watch a movie like Disney's The Black Hole multiple times, mostly because of Vincent, the delightful robot. But
Maximilian right here.
I can watch really dumb, frivolous movies over and over, but when it comes to something like that, I feel like that's just not.
One and done.
I think that's normal. I don't think that, that's like watching Sallow over and over again. That would fuck your brain up. Like, it's normal.
Hilarious, but
Available from Criterion in a Blu-ray set. But yeah, those types of films are like, that's kind of why I go to Sundance, is to see those movies that are, and like Brad, like you reaching out to Norm, I do think that a lot of the films that you see there, you're like, I need to come down from this. Yep. Or, I want to talk about it with other people, which is great that you're in an environment where you can actually have those conversations. But a lot of times I'll see a movie there and I'll say, I've got such a good movie taste in my mouth, I don't want to eat anything else for the rest of the day. So I don't know if you experienced that this year at all. Anyone?
See, I'm the complete opposite of that, because I've seen Promising Young Woman 4 times, and it gets to the point where like I will watch it and like study, because the hell else are you supposed to do when you're sitting in your living room 24/7? Study like every facial expression, and because I think there's a lot of layers to that movie, and I feel like it's one of those movies that I find something new every time when I watch it. And then like it took me like the first time I watched it, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna be singing fucking Paris Hilton for the rest of my life. And then the second time I saw it, I'm like, wait, this is like brilliant how they use that. I don't want to say anything about the movie. So I'm the kind of different like that. But I also am weird and I like depressing. Like, this isn't a depressing movie, but like bummers of movies. And that's what I said the last chat when we talked about Mass that played at Sundance this year. Such a depressing movie. I'll probably go see it again.
So I have a connection to that movie because I know a lot of people who worked on it. And I lived in that valley. I know that church. I knew the people. I knew the guy playing the piano, R.L. Wazi. I knew everybody in it except for the actors. And I know one of the producers. I had no idea that film even happened 10 miles down the street from me. To see, with not knowing that and then having this connection to it, I was really impressed. I mean, it seemed it could easily have been a play because it takes place in one room, and you'd think, okay, this is going to bore the fuck out of me. Excuse my language. And it's on a serious subject, something that I don't think about often. I'm not a mom. I don't have kids. I don't want to be a spoiler alert here, but it's very serious. And I find like the two films I am connected to have the same subject matter going on, which is weird. And the other one is Land. And but I was so impressed with somebody who wrote a script that those actors took very seriously, and they performed it in this space, and they utilized everything they had, and it got its point across. And at the end, there's a redemption.
Without preaching.
And at the end, there was like a lift that happened. You're down there, dark. Like, oh my God, I could never have survived what these people are surviving.
I learned this week that the stoner guy from Cabin in the Woods is the writer-director.
Yeah, Franz.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's brilliant.
Props for horror.
Yeah.
That movie, that's the kind of movie I like. Actor-driven, story-driven, depressing as hell, but I think that they made, like you said, they like just made really good use, because I feel like a lot of people, like when we see like movies based on plays, like there was a lot this past year, where I was like, well, it still felt like a play. That doesn't really bother me. I kind of like single setting, and I feel like a good filmmaker will put you in that setting. And like I was like sweating it out because I felt like I was in that church room with them.
You were there, yeah.
And I said it when we talked about it the last, like that was more nerve wracking than any of the horror movies I saw, which I liked a lot of them, but like this like conversational back and forth, it's like tensions rose and rose and rose. I was like, God damn, like this is good. Like it was like kind of getting to you for a minute.
It was an experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the regular life and world and mainstream media is going to care less about it, but someone created a very good movie, and that's where Sundance shines.
Well, it will get twisted as a preachy movie, but I think that's what's really great about it, is that it brings the conversation to the table without preaching.
Yeah.
Matt, have you seen One Night in Miami, directed by Regina King?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that sort of has that like
Fantastic.
film play thing. When I loved it. I think she is a legit director. Like
Yeah.
after that, yeah, like
Yeah, I liked it. I don't think I quite loved it, but I like that whole like you're hanging out with those guys in that hotel room while they're talking, and I kind of like that.
I can't believe that really happened. Like you know what I mean? Like,
well, I don't think it happened like that, but
I'm sure it didn't happen like that. But I just love that it's based on a real event. So,
I mean, I'll add like Malcolm and Marie. Add that to it. These movies of just people talking. I didn't think I would enjoy movies of people talking, and we've got 3 of them. It sounds like 3 good ones.
Well, Malcolm Marie's a little different because that was a movie about people screaming at each other for.
Yeah, but there is just 2 people talking.
Right.
yeah.
And that's by the guy who created Euphoria, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Malcolm and
awesome.
Marie, yeah, it's good.
What are our main takeaways this year? More than likely, next year in 2022, January, we'll be back at Sundance live.
The main takeaway from the movies this year are that the world is ending.
Yeah.
And this is a shitty time to be alive.
Well,
because everything was about the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm curious because like how the zeitgeist of what we've experienced in the last year, how that's affected films. There's a movie that I actually have a podcast interview with the director tomorrow, Chad Hartigan, who did a film called Little Fish.
Oh, I really want to see that.
Starring Olivia Cook. So I interviewed Chad. He and I have a very interesting history. I was a game show host for a show on IFC called Ultimate Film Fanatic. He was the winner of season 1, and now he's a film director. He's got movies at Sundance. Wow. So his movie's coming out from IFC Films, oddly. Little Fish.
That's awesome.
It's a movie that takes place during a pandemic. Like it's about this relationship, Olivia Cook and the character played by Olivia Cook and her boyfriend. Her boyfriend is afflicted with this disease where you start to lose your short-term memory rapidly. So it's like she's watching the man she loves and their relationship and everything they've experienced together completely disappear. It's based on a short story, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful film, but it's like he can't remember. He'll wake up and every morning he has to try to remember what her name is. It's horrifying. I mean, obviously it's like this extreme version of Alzheimer's. And then it even gets into the chaos of civil unrest that, we've seen over the last year. And, there's a cure, there's a supposed cure, and like what it takes to actually get this potential cure. It's an amazing movie, but there were no plans whatsoever. Like so many things that happened in the movie mirrored. I think that a lot of these movies exist, but they're being amplified, right? Mm-hmm. Like I would never say that Lloyd Kaufman planned for Poultrygeist to be a movie that was making because there's a lot of social commentary in trauma movies.
Yeah,
I don't know that like Lloyd Kaufman is like this, person who can predict the future or whatever.
Prophet?
I would argue.
Yeah,
but
don't tell him that.
Yeah, don't tell him that. We want him to come back on the podcast.
Yeah.
No, he's a visionary. He's a prophet. He's a visionary.
I never thought I would see the tip of a penis at the end of a broomstick, but I did.
I'm just saying that that a lot of these movies I think are amplified. They were already kind of in the zeitgeist. I mean, a pandemic it's something that's happened in history 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It's something that now I think our lives are just different. We may never shake hands with strangers again. Yeah. I have no problem with that, by the way. I was always someone who was a fist bump guy, and I have no problem fist bumping for the rest of my life. That's it. So
I saw the documentary in the same breath as one of the first films that they showed to open the festival, and I was pretty. You relive the pandemic through this footage and this story on what's going on in Wuhan, and then what happens in the U.S. We all knew it was coming, but we didn't do a thing about it. Right. And there's that government, our government. That's a whole other subject that she goes into, but like. To relive that like moment where we were all like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
are we really in this? Are we gonna die? Like, I'm gonna stay at home. I can't touch anything. You're a diseased person. I can't breathe. And you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do that again. It was like going through that was rough again.
And see, I kind of have a problem with movies doing that right now. Like in the fall, there was Totally Under Control, which is more about like the Trump administration's response. And I'm just like, there's not an end to this movie yet. So why are we making it now?
Right.
So I'm more interested in the things I saw at Sundance that were not about the pandemic, but made because of the pandemic.
Stories coming out of it.
So something like How It Ends, which is about an apocalypse, was made. There's a title card at the end. This was made in the summer of 2020 during the pandemic, and it's this like stripped down little comedy. And I ended up being really taken with that movie because while I feel like the apocalypse was I started my review like how many times over the past year have we all thought like this is the end of the world, and I feel like it used it and like the end of the world is like a metaphor for the pandemic, but it was done thoughtfully but then you get like what I can't stand is junk like that Anne Hathaway movie where her and Chiwetel Ejiofor are like locked down in London and they're zooming, everything's on Zoom. Like, like Chris, like you said, if I got to stare at one more Zoom screen, and so like stupid shit like that, I'm overseeing. But even like these really good like I didn't see in the same breath, but like Totally Under Control. It's like well-researched documentaries. I'm like, give me this documentary when there's an end to it.
Yeah, it was good. She's a very good filmmaker. She was actually at Sundance when she had to rush to China to get her kid from her grandmother, but she lives in New Jersey, and she did the whole thing remotely.
Wow.
And so that's what I thought was cool, was the ability to tell a story with no access or your the fundamentals that you're used to using to tell. To make a movie, and I thought that's what that showed. Like even in pandemic, we can still tell stories in a good way, and you're not all Zoom or like our #J all on a phone. Like we can still use movies like actual screen, which was something else that creeped into this Sundance was the use of different devices to make a film. Because we can't be on a film set anymore.
Or Shakespearean film.
Yeah, Shakespearean film.
Part of it might be that, like, I remember, after 9/11, there were movies that came out
nonstop
right after, and I feel it was too soon. We were still processing how the world was different and whatnot, and here we are. We're not, like, as you pointed out, Matt, like, we're not through this yet. We don't know the ending. I think it will have I think it's going to have a happy ending, but not the ending we think. I think it'll have a hopeful ending, but I think that there is more pain that we'll have to go through as a community, as a country, as a global community. We're going to have to get through more pain before we see through the other side. And maybe in the end, part of everything that's happened is brought to light so many other problems that have gone unaddressed for decades, that we're now being forced to deal with them. And also the thing that is most disappointing to me, especially living in Los Angeles and seeing my town that I fell in love with, my town, I moved from Michigan to come to Los Angeles and fell in love with the city, the good parts about the city, not the assholes who live here, which is a lot of drivers, some entitled celebrities. Just good people, my friends who live here. But seeing the city fall apart, and it really just hit home to me that we cannot depend on our elected officials to solve every problem. We cannot depend on big tech to solve problems. In fact, maybe big tech is creating more problems than it's solving. And I think all these things have been amplified by what's happened. And so now we're in this place, and like you said earlier, Matt, the end, we don't know what the ending is. So to have these movies, maybe it is a little too soon. And in the case of like Chad Hartigan's movie Little Fish, it wasn't intended. It's based on a sci-fi short story, and he shot it well before the pandemic happened, and So I don't know if you could consider that fortuitous timing, but it certainly amplified these types of films. We're gonna have to wrap it up in just a second, but I have a very special guest that's gonna
Robert
come up.
Redford?
Not Robert Redford. It's not Robert Redford, but I have a very special guest, and he's tolerated this. I told him his name is Eric Eichelberger. He is a filmmaker. And one piece of advice I would say to Eric as a filmmaker, better lighting, because I can't see
him right when he comes on.
You're in the dark, and we can't see you. So
Poor guy.
I am so sorry, Eric.
Eric is a filmmaker. He has a Zoom class at 7 p.m. He's got to be off. I told him, I said, just join the live stream. He wants to interview me for his documentary.
Cool.
And I got his marketing deck, and I got to say, it was just okay. I think you could do better on the marketing deck. I seriously think you can do better on this marketing deck.
We're all critics.
He has a subject that I think is really interesting. I've appeared in numerous documentaries, whether you know it or not. I was in the documentary about the Fantastic Four, The People versus George Lucas, and a shit ton of documentaries if you look me up on IMDb. Eric is going to pitch for us his movie, and we're going to help workshop with him this film, because the one thing that I know that we like to do at Film Threat, we like to mentor young filmmakers. So anything we can do to help you make your project better, the number one thing being better lighting on your face so we can see you. But other than that, not so you look like, not so much like a police station interrogation, right? But soft lighting. Anyways,
I didn't think I was going to be on camera. I thought it was good for you. So
this is like a pre-interview in a sense, but I want you to pitch your film. Pitch your film to this. These are the writers and editors from Film Threat. They just got back from Sundance, and by that I mean they just logged off the virtual Sundance where they watched it on their couches. We're doing a live stream now that I think 5 people are watching this, so no need to be nervous. But tell us about your project and what some of the questions are that you plan to ask me, and we will pick it apart with love because we want it to be really good. We want it to be a really good documentary. So pitch us your documentary.
okay.
And I'm not,
so
while you're doing it, because I know everything about it, I'm gonna go pee. So you're gonna see a cute photo of me.
Oh my God.
I'll be right back.
hello all.
Hey.
Whoa.
Okay, good. So yeah, the documentary is called Exploit This, and it's about the history of exploitation cinema in America, which is a subject that I picked Chris for because I basically got introduced to exploitation cinema through Film Threat magazine, and sort of, I think it was more the ads in the back. Like there were ads in the back for these video bootleggers or like, you know, people that put out videotapes, and I that was sort of my introduction to Chris Gore, and Film Threat was, I want to get my hands on these movies. So at an age of like, I don't know, I'd say maybe 14, 15, I got really into all the different genres of exploitation movies, whether it be horror, science fiction, or fantasy, or whether it be blaxploitation, women in prison, all the different sort of like genres of exploitation movies. And so I basically grew up on this stuff, cult movies, exploitation movies. And it's just a pet interest of mine that I've had since, you know, that age. So I've been filming for 14 years, collecting interviews with various exploitation and horror and cult movie directors, producers, actors. Some of them you've heard of, like probably Roger Corman you've heard of. And some of them, you know, maybe you haven't, like Jack Hill, but he did the movie Foxy and Coffee and Foxy Brown, and he did the movie Spider Baby. He's in the documentary. Ted Michaels, you've heard of him, maybe you haven't, but he did the movie Astro Zombies. Most people have heard of that. He's, you know, did a lot of Girl in Gold Boots, which has been on Mystery Science and things like that. So you've probably heard of that. Dave Friedman and Herschel Gordon Lewis made the movie Blood Feast, which was a breakthrough Gore film in the 60s. We interviewed him. We interviewed both of them. We went to Dave Friedman's house in Anniston, Alabama, and we did 3 days of interviews with him. We went to Herschel Gordon Lewis's house in Florida, and we interviewed him. And a lot of these people are unfortunately, deceased at this point. So these are some of the last interviews they ever were in. Ray Dennis Steckler made the movie The Thrill Killers and the Incredibly Strange Creatures Who Stopped Living and Became Mixed Up Zombies.
Yeah.
We hit the video store in Las Vegas. We've interviewed lots of people, and we've been continuing to interview even through the pandemic. I interviewed Debbie Rochon the other day, who is one of the stars of Romeo and Juliet. She's also in Terror Firmer, and she's in the recent movie Shakespeare Shitstorm. She's in the movie Bring Stevens, who is a well-known scream queen. She's in the movie Mary Warnoff, who was in the films of Paul Bartel, like Eating Raoul.
Yeah.
And
I love
You didn't miss anyone. Wow.
Eric, let me stop. Let me stop you right there. I love what I've heard. Like, you have legit movie knowledge, and the fact that you paid attention to this weird thing that was in the back of old issues of Film Threat. Like, old issues of Film Threat had like this weird thing in the back where we would run these old exploitation ads. We called it Sleaze Cinema. We would collect all these ads from old clippings in newspaper. We would collect them. By a show of, so I like what I've heard, but it's not up to me. It's up to everyone else here at Film Threat.
Oh, we get a vote as to whether
by a show of hands, should I be in Eric's documentary?
Oh,
wait, now just not yet. Don't give away your vote. Let's do it like, give me a 3, 2, 1. Should I be in this documentary? Yes or no? Show of hands. Is that unanimous? Okay. All right, Eric. I have to talk. Now, the thing is this. You've been working on this for years. This is sort of like a thing that I want to do, a new live stream show that I want to do, where I bring on a filmmaker and we help you with something. Like how can I help you with your movie? This is a thing. We would do a panel. What did we call that panel, Alan? What did we call that?
Is it the nudity one or the
No, not the nudity one. This was a panel we would do where a filmmaker would get up. We would call it the chair of destiny. And you get up and you sit in the chair and you say, I'm stuck making this movie. I need $1 million. How do I get $1 million? And then we would try to help the filmmaker. And I would always say, you don't need $1 million. I would basically, the answer would be like, you're just like Dorothy. You could have gone home at any point. So in this story, which would have made for a very short Wizard of Oz movie. But I want to do your doc. I don't know that this is the best way. I talked about doing it on a live stream, but you've been working on this for 14 years. I probably need to come to your house or have you come to my place, and we'll do a socially distanced shooting it. That's how we should do it. But I really like everything you say. I wish was reflected in your deck. The deck is like your passion talking about your project right now is amazing. Like, I don't know if you have like a sizzle reel, like a 1 or 2 minutes of like, here's people, and then here's someone. I feel like what you're pitching is not.
Yes, we've got
a link to that video. But like,
did I send you the Kickstarter? Did I send you the Kickstarter that we're doing?
I don't know if you sent that. I know I got the deck, and I was just like, this can be better. I felt like Pedro Pascal. It's a marketing deck, but it could be better. Nobody saw Wonder Woman 84. Not in this.
Yes,
I didn't.
So,
so
I really like this. I feel like this is. I feel like with what you've got, this is a series. This isn't just one documentary. This could be like 30 minutes on just women in prison, right?
Oh God, yes.
I mean, 30 minutes on a particular person, like William Castle. Like, I don't know if William Castle's in it, but I don't know if he would fit your criteria. But I really like this. Oh my God, where did you find that?
That's in the archive.
That's in the archives. Oh my God, yeah, these are like these are some of the movies that we would just sort of put the ads. These are just the ads for the movies out of context.
Wow.
Yeah.
We talk about Mom and Dad. Kroger is the producer of the movie Mom and Dad, and I have Roger Corman talking about Mom and Dad. I have John Waters talking about Mom and Dad, who are both inspired by that producer Kroger Babb, who was a total showman. He came from the carnival business, and he became one of the earliest sort of influential big exploitation producers. And Dave Friedman was very inspired by Kroger Babb. In fact, he worked for Kroger Babb, and he traveled with Kroger Babb, and he helped him to roadshow Mom and Dad. And in the movie, we've got Dave Friedman, even in the little Kickstarter video, we've got part of it. We've got Dave Friedman sort of doing the book pitch that he would do back in the day, and when he was in his 20s, and he gave up a good job at Paramount to work for Kroger Babb and to promote Mom and Dad. And that's how he became such a good promoter. Dave Friedman he was kind of brought up by Kroger Babb, who was the ultimate showman.
Well, Eric, first of all, thank you for trusting me and for coming on this live stream, kind of, unannounced, whatever. I thought we could, because I've actually done, and I know of some filmmakers that have actually done their interviews for their documentaries over a live stream, and mainly just using the audio. But you've got a much more epic in scale project, so we should have an offline conversation. We'll arrange to do this in person. So
yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I would love to send you, Chris, the Kickstarter, because that video is exactly, I think, what you're looking for. It shows my passion. It shows the passion of my producer, and it also has clips of all the various people and a promo for the movie itself, which I think you'll enjoy.
Cool. Well, and I also wanted to test out a theory that we could do a show where we open up to anyone, a filmmaker. I need advice. I need $1 million. And one of my responses to that is I would always say to a filmmaker, you need $1 million. First of all, I don't know why you randomly think you need $1 million, but I would ask them to ask me for $1 million. And my standard answer was always no.
That's mine too.
Mainly as a way to coach them for like, well, what do you need to get the movie made? And I'm a big fan of Mark Duplass. Gave a great speech at the 2016 South by Southwest. He gave the keynote address at South by, and Mark Duplass, his theme of it, and he's talked about it in his books and whatnot. And the cavalry's not coming. They're not going to help you. You got to make a movie by any means necessary. And there's a filmmaker that we just did. I just did an interview with this filmmaker on Film Threat, Bill Zabub.
Oh yeah.
Never made a good movie. Bill Zabub, he made it. He's like the modern day version. You should have him in your film. I can connect you. He made a movie called called Ant Farm Dickhole. He also made a film. He made a film called Jesus Christ Serial Rapist. He made a movie.
No, Santa Claus.
Oh, Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I reviewed that motherfucker. Santa Claus Serial Rapist.
So, Chris, at Dragon Con one year, we were giving out swag, and you gave a friend of mine a Bill Zabub DVD, and he went home and watched it. And
I know what DVD it was. It was a movie called Dick Shark.
Yes.
It's about a guy who has a penis that looks like it's basically a shark. So this guy, he made one of his best films. He made a movie called Ass Monsters, the making of a horror movie. And it's about a bunch of horror fans that go to horror conventions, and they're like, look at these guys selling VHS tapes of their movies at these tables at conventions. We could make a movie. And so it's his most self-reflexive work, and it's basically about a bunch of shitty, talentless filmmakers trying to make a horror movie called Ass Monsters. And it's awesome. You should look it up. So the Bill Zabub interview is on the Film Threat website, but let's do your movie. Obviously, I'm going to do your film. That was a given before you came on, but I want to see if this is a format that we could do as, here we are, meet the critics. Usually the critics are something that a filmmaker meets at the end of the process. And what I would like to do is create a scenario and a weekly show that could be hosted not by me, maybe by someone else from the Film Threat roster of critics, because we're doing more live streaming and whatnot on YouTube. A show where a filmmaker could come on and say, here's my movie, here's my pitch, here's what I think I need. And we have quite a varied knowledge amongst our group of people at Film Threat. We have some people that have made films and filmmakers. We have people from, a diverse group, and also diversity when it comes to opinions, right, about types of movies that are loved. So I'm a fan of docs, and especially one of my favorite types of docs are documentaries about films and filmmaking and movies. One of my favorites from last year was a movie called You Don't Know Me. It's about showgirls, and it was all done. That movie was all done. All the interviews were done over a live stream.
It was archival and it was audio interview.
Archival and audio only. Look up that movie, Eric. You Don't Know Mi. It's so good. So obviously your movie, you've been working on it for a number of years. It would stand out if I didn't fit what you were doing. So let's arrange that after. Please send me the sizzle reel. But what can we do? You've got now 7 people here, 7 movie critics. And rather than having your movie reviewed on Film Threat and getting a 5 from Bobby Lapierre,
that bitch,
that asshole. Maybe what you can do is, like, where do you need help, advice? What can we do if we are the Wizard of Oz? Can we grant you a wish? How can we help you with this project? What do you need any advice? Obviously, you've thought very thoughtfully about this, and I knew that just from our email exchange. But what can we do now? What can the 7 people on this live stream do to help you make this the most successful version of this project you could possibly make?
Are we thinking about, Chris, are we thinking about process? Are we talking about process? Are we talking about film process? Or are we talking about, film financing? Or what do we...
Any area you need help, whether it's like the title of the movie is Exploit This, right?
Yeah.
Did you know that there is an event? It's the biggest night in independent film. It's called Award This. I'm just using that as an excuse to.
And it's coming.
Can I show you something, Chris?
It's awardthis.com. Go to it, and it's we're doing our annual award show, and it's specifically to acknowledge and give praise and recognition to movies that don't normally get nominated for awards. So in any case, if there's any way we can help you out, like, here's your opportunity to ask for advice. Like, I feel like that's kind of an interesting thing. And I thought about that. I was talking to a colleague from a different media outlet, and we sort of just posed the question, why don't filmmakers talk to critics before they make their movie? And that way it would it might actually help you avoid some mistakes, so that it would be better reviewed and possibly better accepted by the public, if you even give a shit about that.
Can I show you something, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, let me show you something. So this is the film.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
As it stands, right? Because we're in the process of the story producing of the film, basically. So each of these colors represents a theme within the film, and then we've got the 3-act structure, and we've been basically laying out the film. And there's three sort of big themes in the film. One of the themes is basically counterculture, or like how exploitation movies exploited whatever the culture had going at the time. So that's one big theme. Another big theme is like the First Amendment, how exploitation movies really pushed forward, and you got away with more and more in terms of the First Amendment. Another thing we have is like inclusion and diversity. Exploitation movies Doris Wishman, Roberta Finlay were some of the most earliest female directors, and like they got their shot, making all kinds of exploitation movies, whether it was volleyball epics, nudist camp pictures, roughy films, all these kinds of films. And then the other big theme in the film is like, okay, so what is exploitation? Like, who's being exploited? Like, is it the people being exploited? Is the subjects being exploited? Like, what's being exploited? And so those are sort of the some of the big there's sub themes, but those are the big running themes. And what I'd like to walk away with, I've got tons and tons of footage, right? And of course, I've got clips from films that I've been archiving the whole time, and images, and I've got loads of stuff. But I want to really bring across thematically a story that is not just a clip show, not just a self-congratulatory piece for these filmmakers, but really a compelling story about this subject. So not so academic. Like, how do we get meaty? How do we get the human interest? How can someone sit down, watch this on Netflix, and say, I never heard of exploitation movies, but this is really compelling.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a live stream. I gotta
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Chris is
I'm thinking.
yeah, just anyone chime in.
Yeah, I'm thinking like there's so many things that have been influenced by exploitation that are part of our daily life in a way that, and I wonder, to grab people's attention, and I don't know how big an audience you're thinking, but I love Herschel Gordon Lewis. I actually met him before he died because I worked on a film about the making of Pink Flamingos. And so all those guys were there. And I remember thinking, I didn't know a ton at the time. This was almost just over 25 years ago. I remember thinking at the time, like, I should know these people. I should know who they are because they invented all these things that people use all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
They
the
invented all the
splatter guys.
fundamental gimmicks that
Yeah.
people have built on.
Yeah. And I'm like, and you always want to know, where did this come from? Who was the first? And I think in exploitation films, there's a lot of thirst. That, that's just one thought.
Yeah, no, that's a theme. That's a theme that we definitely explore as well. Yeah, I should have probably said that. Yeah, the innovation, and that's true with the diversity part that I was talking about too. Is like, blaxploitation movies gave Black actors a shot, like, and gave them a leading role that wasn't just a porter or a supporting role of some kind. And exploitation movies gave women directors a shot. They gave Doris Wishman a shot.
Yeah.
They gave Roberta Finlay a shot.
Exactly.
And,
That's a good
so
one.
there are a lot of firsts in that regard in terms of technique. I mean, you wouldn't, if you didn't have Roger Corman's biker movies, you would have never had Easy Rider. Like, there was no.
What about Russ Meyer? Like Russ
Or
Meyer,
Hellcats. You would have had Hellcats.
right? I mean, if you look at Russ Meyer movies in particular, I mean, you can focus on the exploitative aspects of it, but the women were always the best characters. I mean, from Kitten Natividad to just the way that women were treated in his films, people just think of the nudity. It's like these were all like powerful, strong, and badass female characters, and not just because they were female. It's because of their just sort of their essence. I don't know. I just think Faster Pussycat Kill Kill is probably one of the best titles for a movie.
Yes.
Along with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but also like go back and rewatch that movie. I mean, Russ Meyer worshipped women. The way the women were so strong in that film. Go back and watch it again, and you'll see it very differently, especially when you see, I guess, and maybe this is just from WandaVision, you see, like, as they go through the eras, you see that, like, she's this, like, she's a homemaker and moving, and I feel like that's not the kind of characters that Russ Meyer ever put in his films. So,
No.
anyways, well, dude, I'm sorry, I had like a kerfuffle outside that I had to deal with. So I'm sorry if you heard any weird noises.
Oh no, we didn't hear a thing.
You didn't hear anything? Hey, did you, Alan?
A little bit.
Did you mute me? I hope you muted.
Yeah, I did. Once we heard you, I did.
Thank you. I'm so sorry, but well, this is what happens. I'm doing I'm in my place and crazy stuff happens. So Eric, the movie sounds like you've been working on it as long as you have. It's going to be amazing. I do recommend seeing if it's possible. What one piece of advice I would give to you, because I'm in the midst of 2 documentaries myself, and one of the docs we're looking at doing multiple versions of it, one for television and then one to release on video on demand. So a completely different version. So one would be for a TV network. And I would recommend, if it's possible, since you've been spending all this time doing it. I mean, look, Tiger King started out as a reality show and then turned into a documentary series for Netflix. You don't know how it's going to turn out. A buddy of mine made a documentary called Star Wars, which was about the Star Wars fans who waited in line for Star Wars Episode 1. Spoiler alert, they were tremendously disappointed.
Bless their hearts.
At the end of it. But what you could do is develop different version of the documentary. There could be, here's the doc, which is in a way kind of a pilot and the greatest hits of something you could develop into a series. If you could do a 25-minute episode just on like a particular exploitation filmmaker, I think that would be amazing. I mean, there's that show, The Movies That Made Us, on Netflix, sort of a spin-off of The Toys That Made Us, the same company, the Nacelle company. You might want to even approach them about your doc. So I think, especially when you drop knowledge about old issues of Film Threat magazine, when it was in print, I was already sold. I just wanted to get to know a little bit more about this project, and I thought I would surprise everybody with your presence. So I don't know.
Jorg Bucharest because of you, Chris.
You know about Jorg Bucharest? Oh my God! Yeah, necromantic. Yeah, well,
yeah, I met him in Germany. I went to Germany when I was in my young 20s, and I think I probably found his number on one of the videos or something. I contacted Jorg.
That's amazing.
We're in your 20s? Heavens.
Oh.
That's amazing, though. That's really cool that you got to talk to him, because I haven't seen him personally, I haven't seen him in any of those like documentaries that are kind of similar to what you're doing. I've never seen him in it. So it feels like you have people that are, that you won't see anywhere else. And that's good.
Yeah. I like that you're not just going for the typical like Roger Corman exploitation filmmaker. I mean, Roger Corman is, at this point kind of a brand. Like he and Charlie Band and Lloyd Kaufman are, if you collect the 3 of them and you put them on the Infinity Gauntlet, it'll be
even more powerful.
Which looks like, I don't know.
We've got everybody, Chris. I mean, we've got everybody. There's a filmmaker we interviewed recently named Mark Pirro.
I know Mark Pirro. He made a movie called Nudist Colony of the Dead.
Yes.
I directed a photo shoot for the cover of the DVD. Yeah, so I have a lot of weird history with a lot of these filmmakers. Like Jorg Bucharest, I sent him a lot of money in the 90s because that was the heyday of VHS, when a VHS tape cost like less than $2 to produce, and we sold them for $29.95. And we did a split with the filmmaker, and I was sending him very large checks.
What movie were you doing that on? What movie was that for, Chris?
What's that?
What movie was that for?
Oh, it was Necromantic, Necromantic 2, Dirtotus King, all of them. So wait, I gotta go away for a second. Sorry about that. Just a second.
You guys, I also have to bounce. I apologize. But I will say that, Eric, I do think that you're on the right track, and I think this is a solid, approached properly, this is a solid pitch and a solid concept. I do.
Oh, thank you.
So Keep it up, because you seem to have these connections in just the right places.
Mhm.
And for me, to me, it's about the education of the origins of what works in film, and what has endured despite the scrappy origins. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, that's kind of, William Castle was the guy,
Yeah.
you know. So why exploitation works, why gimmicks work, and what it eventually achieves. So I think you're on the right track.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. And you guys, I must bounce.
Bye.
Look at my
I gotta
hair.
head
I've been
out,
like
too.
futzing with my hair. I'm like, okay.
It was fun with Sundance. I hope next year we can all be together.
I know.
Oh my god.
I want to get that cabin back. Yeah.
Remember
Yeah,
when we
yeah.
spent time in the cabin and we didn't see each other?
I
It's
know.
kind of like
Where
that.
did you guys go all the time?
But
We're gonna make Henry give us a party. That's my goal.
Yes, we gotta have a party.
We need a party, Chris. We need a party next year at Sundance.
Let's do
Yes.
We've done film threat parties at Sundance.
then let's
Let's-
do
And we're
another
gonna make
one.
Henry give it to us. By the way, he
All right,
owes us.
well, we'll do it, and we will do it because we will be hopefully celebrating the impending release or festival debut of a movie called Film Threat Sucks. And some of you have seen the rough cut and given notes. We're going to continue to work on that movie right up until it debuts, probably in March of 2022.
Do it.
Yes. But there's one caveat: we aren't spending a dime.
Okay,
Not
good.
a penny.
We'll have to put
Not
on
a
the
penny.
Nothing.
And Eric's invited, and
Yes.
you're invited. The 4 people that are still watching this.
Yeah.
There's 4 people watching.
We don't know who you are.
Free booze.
I
See you at Sundance. Yeah.
could have just texted all the people that are watching this. No, we appreciate everyone who's watching, except for the asshole that made a comment earlier because he didn't understand what the fuck we were talking about.
Yeah.
So
You know, bitches.
Um,
you know.
fuck that guy.
Do share.
But Eric, let's talk and we'll arrange. We'll figure out when and where to do this. I want to make sure that stylistically, visually, it actually fits what you're doing. And then I want to get some feedback from everyone who's been on this. I want to do a show where every week we get together and we bring on 2 or 3 different filmmakers. And it's think of it as like Shark Tank with an indie movie. That's what this is.
Wow.
So
I
it's
love having power.
yeah. So we
Film with a purpose.
have a filmmaker come on, and it's like meeting the critics before they're being critiqued. So I don't know what the name of this fucking show is. Can anyone post in the comments? I will send a T-shirt to whoever helps us. At the very least, a T-shirt or a patch or some piece of swag. If
What
you
you should do is
Pitch tent.
you should
Uh,
you should give us each $1 million that we could invest in that.
can I just say no?
Good answer.
But no,
Alan,
I
Alan.
because I know that like filmmakers usually get stuck at about the same place. It's usually the same sort of recurring things that happen, but then you have very different needs. And I think the idea of matching critics with filmmakers who are in the midst of the process, I think would be a useful thing, not just for the filmmaker themselves, but also for people watching, kind of a way to like connect, like, hey, normally you see a movie critic at the end of the process. Now you get to talk to them before and pitch the film, and we'll give you feedback. And Norm will be the Simon because he will be the most loved and hated amongst everyone. I think he
Oh
will.
my god, my favorite part. I just keep picturing like a big reveal of like a Homer Simpson car, like the Homer, you know, at the end, like,
Right.
hey, we all came up with this and everyone hates it. I mean, so sorry.
But Eric, thank you so much for doing this. You've got my email. Let's stay in touch. For everyone who's still watching this, go to filmthreat.com, please. Go every day. We post about 3 to 5 reviews daily. We've got a lot of reviews from Sundance that are up there right now. This is our Sundance Film Festival 2021 wrap up. It'll be a different year next year. We're hoping we're all back in person and back in a movie theater together. I might not hug you. I probably
What
won't.
the fuck?
But
You are
I-
giving me a goddamn hug.
I will fist bump everybody.
And we can do this.
The elbow thing, I love it. I love it. I was never. I'm not a hugger. I'm not a hugger unless I'm not a hugger. I've just not been a hugger as a person. So I think I'm all about these new rules, and
we can toast.
We can toast. We will definitely toast. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Eric, for being a good sport. Thank you to the entire Sundance team. Most of you are here. To everyone, Matt and Lori and Dana and Norm and Alan for working his ass off to get all this coverage.
And Bobby.
He's still there. He's still at the Eccles.
He's still right in front of the theater, freezing his ass off. Thank you so much. And Eric, I'm excited that you actually took the time and trusted me to come on here. And you are going to be on time for your Zoom class at 7 p.m.
Yeah, that's true.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you all. And really great to meet you all.
Yeah, no,
I'm excited.
Doing this. Thank you for being a guinea pig. We did a surprise pilot for a show. That's basically what we did. And thank you. Watch our Film Threat watch parties every week, Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Lori Kikta and I are doing a watch party together tomorrow for Beast Mode with James Duvall is going to be there. James Duvall, of course, you know him from Donnie Darko. You might know him from Independence. He's actually in Independence Day.
Yes, and Doom, all the Greg Araki movies like Doom Generation, Nowhere, Totally Fucked Up.
Yes,
he's
love
great.
Greg Araki stuff. He's great. So Lori and I are co-hosting Beast Mode Watch Party tomorrow. Check that out. And thank you for supporting Film Threat. We appreciate it. Take care, everybody. Hey, go away. Why are we still on?